Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. Akira Kurosawa directing The Seven Samurai circa 1954. Pretty cool. Pretty cool to look at when it was the year 2023. But it is no longer the year 2023. We are going into 2024. And now all we care about is Stanley Kubrick making 2001 Space Odyssey. Every time I get these things in the mail, I'm always reminded that here we are, moving on. You know, we're on the dawn of the new year, 2024. And that's a good reminder that we need to make a video here on the channel that is a retrospective, a year in review, a look back at 2023. Because, you know, hey guys, we've been on a journey and it's been kind of a really crazy year and there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. And so I wanted to do a special video here on the channel today where I take a look back at some of the highest viewed videos I had throughout the year. And we can kind of go down memory lane and talk about, you know, what those videos were, what events in the comic book collecting market, you know, had so many people interested in watching content about it. And we can have that little bit of a conversation. And then also, I want to go back and take a look at the predictions I had going into 2023 and see how right or shockingly wrong I was for those predictions. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it. Helps support the channel, doing all those things. But let us get into this video here today. Now, I thought that this would be really, really fun video, just something a little bit different here on the channel. I mean, we're kind of going into the weeds of, you know, the back end here of YouTube. You guys can see, oh, look at all these impressions and data and analytics and all this stuff with my YouTube channel. I actually don't spend a lot of time looking at this stuff. I don't really like think too hard about, you know, how the algorithm works. You know, that probably is something that's preventing me from, you know, growing even more, but that's okay. You know, I just think I would get in my own head if I spent too much time looking at all these numbers. But I thought that this would be kind of a fun thing to do. Shout out to Neo Cards and Comics. He did something a little similar the last 365 days. And I have it sorted by view count. And let's just take a look at, you know, like the top 10 or so. You know, of course, the first one I have, which is the most viewed video this year, coming in at a whopping 48,563 views. That's a lot of people. Is this one right here, this comic book talk to dealer video. What do comic book dealers think of the current comic market, San Diego Comic-Con 2023 Comic-Con discussion? You know, this is something that has become very, very apparent to me. People really do like these talk to dealer videos that I've done here on the channel, the interviews and things like that. I suppose it makes sense as to why this one got so many views compared to the other ones, because one, you know, it's at San Diego Comic-Con, so I feel like, you know, that's a bigger con that people are interested in. There's probably a lot of people at that time, you know, consuming that content. And two, I feel like that was, you know, at a really interesting point in the comic market. A lot of stuff sort of going on and a lot of changes in values and things of that nature. So there's probably a lot of people interested in what like a lot of the dealers had to say right there. And this is something that I find super fascinating. You know, like you look at the impressions, if you guys don't know, is every time when you guys open up, you know, YouTube and you see a thumbnail served to you, that is an impression. So you can see that impression rate for this is 786,000. That's a lot of people. Like that's a lot of people that this thing is like, hey, you should check out this video, even though the click-through rate is only 4%. But, you know, you go down here to some other videos here, like the CGC scandal, which of course we all know about, we've just been talking about. You know, this one only has 124 impressions, but a 10% click-through rate. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how the algorithm works here, where what if they actually decided to service this video to 786,000, you know, people out there? I mean, based on this impression rate, I mean, this might have 100,000 views. It's pretty crazy how the algorithm works. But yeah, dealer video, always very popular on the channel. That's the type of content that people always like to watch, always like to enjoy. Coming in here at the number 2 spot is the video I put out on the first day of the new year, you know, the top comics to invest in for 2023. You know, this one is actually really, really interesting. I've since gone back and looked at it, and it's actually surprising to me that, you know, of course there's tons of misses in there, but there's also a lot of hits in there as well, at least at different points in the year. And I can see why these types of videos get more views. It's definitely a little more surface level, probably appeals to the more casual comic book collector that just kind of wants to look into it. But, you know, with these things, I hope that they really actually listen to what I say in the video versus just take everything at face value, because again, like I always say here on the channel, it really, all that matters is what you buy a book for and then what you end up selling it for. It's not really, something you can do where I'm just going to buy this book and, sit on it, especially for a calendar year, and then all of a sudden it's going to go to the moon. That's not really how anything works. This one here was a funny one. Comic book collecting expert, in quotations, guys, reacts to Carl Runfeldt's $6 million book, super secret video, where he talked about the no grade Superman. That was one that, definitely a lot of people really, really enjoyed that one. And I think that the reason why that one got so many views, of course, is because, it's latching onto a YouTuber who has like 1 million plus subscribers. So, there's probably some crossover from his audience that wanted to see that. But that one is really interesting. I mean, that one is one that, a lot of people were talking about that footage going around. A lot of people were talking about that Superman, and that was just one that the community was very, very interested in. Of course, I showed this one right here, the CGC scam. I mean, obviously, biggest story coming in here at the end of the year, and one of the highest viewed videos at 17,000. And I thought that was really interesting because, if you look at this one, the one with Comic Book Palace and Glenn and all that stuff, that was another one that, just a week before the CGC thing, this is also another one that a lot of people were interested in watching, a lot of views for this video, and a big stir in the market. And that's where I had that video where I was talking about, here are some of the biggest news stories in comic book collecting as a whole, all coming out, within 2 weeks at the end of the year. So funny to actually see that. This one was very interesting. He lost $69,000. This is one where a Reddit user on the comic collecting forum talked about how he bought at the height of 2021 and was 69 grand in unrealized gains or unrealized losses with a lot of his books. And I thought that was really, really interesting to commentate on. Obviously, people are, always going to be attracted to that big of a number, especially when it's in red. So that's why that one was heavily viewed. Oh man, this was quite the story. Of course, we got the Bryce Comics, Gabriel Del Otto cover art one. I mean, that was a big story, also involving CGC, and I see this one underneath it. When Frank Miller did his signing with his Wolverine cover, and CGC doing so many artist signings and things like that. Anytime CGC does something that strikes a chord in the community, obviously people want to talk about it. A couple other ones just to show you guys really quick. I think it's funny to look back on some of this stuff. You guys like it when I do the collector corner type of stuff. When I go over there and sit with you guys and just have a little powwow, and just kind of shoot from the hip. All these ones tend to get more views. Maybe it's because they're so long. Usually I rant for like 30 minutes on these ones, and YouTube likes watch time and stuff because they want to keep everyone attached to these platforms. So that's kind of why those videos get a lot of views. And then, of course, my Swagglecast ones. I thought this one with Sean from Reserved Investments, and then another one here that I did with Vince from Comic Connect. So it's kind of interesting. You have two very, very opposite opinions on the state of the market. Or, no, I shouldn't say opposite opinions, because it's not that Sean doesn't like comic books and stuff. It's just that you have kind of different points of view of, how to approach your comic book collecting and comic book hobby and what to be buying and things like that. So very, very interesting to see that. And definitely some of the, the stuff that I'm very, very proud of, as far as content on the channel. Some of the Swagglecast episodes, I feel like I, provide a decent amount of value in, those interviews and having those conversations. And hopefully you guys enjoy them and get some good takeaways from the people that are on it. And the last one I'll talk about right here is, collection buying. Of course, collection buying is huge. That's a whole other subsection of comic book YouTube, picking up stuff. This is one where I got a Fantastic Four collection. So I would say that between, CGC, scandals, doesn't even have to be scandals. Anytime something involves CGC in a great sort of way, or anytime, I talk to comic book dealers, or stuff like that, or anytime there's like, what do you call it? Like crash porn, right? Where it's like people looking at car crashes and things like that. Oh, he lost $69,000, or this person made a purchase mistake, or things like that. I definitely think that is the stuff that, attracts the views here on YouTube. And then, of course, the Collector's Corner videos, which, I'm not going to abuse those ones. I just want to have those conversations from time to time when there's a lot going on in the market and we need to sort of figure it all out together. Now, before I wrap up this video, I did want to do a look back at my predictions for 2023. This is a video I put out in the first week of this year, and yes, I will do another one in 2024. I have my list of predictions, and we got to check some receipts. So the first prediction I had is this one that I called Return to First. And what I was implying with this was that, we are going to be seeing a year where people really, really focus back in on the keys, on the first appearances of characters and things like that. And I would actually say that I was more wrong on this prediction than I was right. But I think that we saw in this calendar year that, even some of those first appearances like AF-15 and Hulk 1 and things like that were not immune to, the macroeconomy and the pullbacks and things that we saw. I think a much better prediction for this would have been return to scarcity, because really it's, you could have done better just picking up, really, really unique covers that aren't first appearances, or creator first. That might have been a better way to spin it. Things like that are just not as often collected and have that more scarce thing. And that could be, from a golden age book to even, a modern book that is extremely, extremely scarce that people actually really like. So I would say that I was half wrong, half right on that one, but more on the wrong side. All right, number 2 here, price consolidation. This one I think I knocked out of the park. I think that this one was absolutely what we saw happen here in the comic book market, where there was a lot of, mid-grade, mid-range key books that really, squished a lot of the values for them. So what I was basically saying in this is like, you take a book like Fantastic 448 First Silver Surfer, and a 5.0 would sell for, whatever it is, $1,000. And then a 3.0 would also sell for $1,000. And then a 6, or a 5.5 would then sell for $800. And then a 4.5 would sell for, $875. And so there was a lot of like consolidation with all the prices in the mid-range. And the reason for that is because, a lot of the volatility was going to be all over the place with those books, and any given sale, any given book at any given moment. And it didn't really matter, what the grade was, that you would see these fluctuations and sales would jump each other and undercut each other and all this sort of stuff. Whereas in prior years, it was pretty consistent. Like you could see like a 7.0 would consistently sell for this versus a 6.0, which is this, and everything would be at scale. We might start to see the scale kind of even out here as things have all kind of corrected back down to their floor values. I think that consolidation thing, we may not see that as much in this new year of 2024. All right, next up here, next prediction, I had negativity. Oh man, negativity was rampant this year. I got to say, there's always negativity in the comic book market, but I feel like this year was especially negative. There were so many different points in the year where negativity was at a peak in the community. But that's not to say that, it totally sours it for everyone. I had a wonderful comic collecting year, but you could tell that when times were going to be tough going into 2023, when there was going to be a lot of pullbacks in pricing and stuff, there was going to be a lot of upset people. There was going to be a lot of negativity as a result of it. And I think that definitely manifested in a large, large way. All right. Prediction number 4, the Gunn effect, the James Gunn effect. Everything that guy says is going to absolutely explode. I would say that this one was half right, half wrong, but more on the right side, because it just depends on what point of the year are we living in. Because essentially, there was a time when James Gunn did his announcement, and every single book in the market that was related to James Gunn's announcement absolutely went bananas. Since then, I think a lot of those books like Booster Gold and, Number One and things like that have probably had their pullbacks here at the end of 2023. But at the time, the James Gunn effect was 100% real, and people were going crazy for those books. So this is a prediction that I would say is half right, half wrong, depending on the time of the year, but ultimately way more right, because it did actually happen. All right, moving on now to prediction number 5, celebrity books. I would say that this is also a half right, half wrong, maybe slightly more wrong, because I would have bet that there would have been more celebrity books coming out this calendar year. We might still see it. I didn't really put a number on it. I just sort of felt like, hey, in this market, in order for people to sell a lot of new comic books, they're really going to need to leverage any sort of celebrity that they can, a la like Keanu Reeves, Berserker, that sort of thing. I mean, I talked about here on the channel, Sean Chen's Evermind comic book that had Daniel Wu in it. There were some other celebrity-related books throughout the course of the year. You could talk about, influencer-related books that also was sort of a factor. But I thought we would have seen a little more Keanu Reeves, Berserker type of stuff. So I'm going to call that one a little bit of a push. Not really right, not really wrong, sort of in between. All right, number 6 here, Bagman Spec. What I think I meant to say with Bagman Spec was that it was going to be random books throughout the course of the year that pop off in the market. And I would say that this is another half right, half wrong prediction. We had the first appearance of the female Silver Surfer that popped off in the market, and random books like that. Those are the only types of spec books that you could really have done well on. Like if you bought them in dollar bins and then sold them for $15 or $20, whenever they had their 15 minutes of fame. There's always going to be spec books that blow up in the market. Every single week, there are spec books that still blow up in the market. I mean, just look at any trending list, any cover price list. So it's kind of a hard prediction to say that it's wrong because, of course, it's very, very obvious. Number 7 here, eBay live selling. I would say that this one is definitely wrong because eBay live selling got kicked down the road. I think that eBay live selling is probably going to come next year or this coming year. And preview, I'm going to talk about eBay live selling once again in my predictions for 2024. All right, number 8, Kang the Conqueror. This one, absolutely swing and a miss right here. I thought that this would be the year, with Quantum Mania and all this stuff that we'd start to see, a lot of people really getting on the Kang bandwagon. And boy, oh boy, was this one wrong, boys. This one wrong. This is probably my bias of just liking the character, not the MCU version, but liking the comic book version of this character. And I suppose, I could cope a little bit and say, I mean, who would have thought that he was going to have legal troubles going into this year? But as far as a prediction is concerned, here's the receipt. I was 100% wrong with this one. It seems like Kang is no longer going to be a thing. And I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, maybe they're going to recast this character. We'll see. But you can tell. I mean, either way, they're going to disassociate from him being the main bad guy, at least for the next couple years or so. Last 2 predictions, just to kind of quickly go through them. Number 9, fewer record prices. I think that this one is definitely a correct prediction. I talked about in the top of this year that I was like, it's going to be a tougher economy going into 2023. Thus, these headlines of, sets record sale or $1 million sale and things like that were not going to be happening. And while I, of course, think that there are some Golden Age books that definitely set records and things like that, of course, there's always going to be books throughout the year that set records. But, even high-end Golden Age stuff like Superman 1s and Batman 1s and even the Action 1 this year sold for $1 million less. Those types of books definitely did not have the big record sales that they had in years prior to that. And so I think that this is a fairly accurate one. And then, of course, if we talk about Silver Age and Bronze Age books, I mean, none of those books set records compared to their 2022 prices or 2021 prices. So this one was pretty accurate. I do think it's interesting as we go into 2024. I think that we could start to see record price headlines come back into play for certain books. And so I think that that is one to look out for. And then the last prediction I had here, number 10, creator-owned comics. This is something that I've been talking a little bit about, being a big deal going into, in the future of comic books and stuff like that. And I would say that that is actually true. I mean, the Evermind one with Sean Chen was a little bit of a celebrity book. I kind of lumped it into that category, but it's also a creator-owned comic book because it's actually his property. I've talked about, Eric July's comic book that had made a lot of headlines throughout this calendar year. I think creator comic books are always going to be huge. And I think we might be moving to a place where you're going to see it more and more. A lot of these creators, especially the ones that have big followings, just doing more creator-owned properties. And that'll probably be a huge part of current and new comic publishing. But that's all I got. What did you guys think about 2023? What are some of the interesting, stories throughout this calendar year? What are the interesting takeaways or surprises that you guys had? What are you guys looking forward to in 2024? I am very much looking forward to seeing what the comic collecting world brings us. I'm sure it's going to be one heck of a ride and one heck of a journey. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.